And welcome back to part 11 of Tomb Raider 2013, where last time we lost our beloved Roth. Like, next to Jonah, the only characters outside of Lara you're going to care about. And today we're going to be trying to push our way down towards the beach that everyone else has gone to, since they're thinking they can repair a boat to try and get out, when realistically, looking at this helicopter crash that we made last time, it's unlikely they'll just get away. Something in the island is keeping us here. And until we can find out what and deal with it, we're stuck here. It's likely the same reason why Matthias is so hell-bent on getting a priestess and getting a maiden to give up to Queen Himiko. That probably has something to do with how they want to get off this island. But who knows? But either way, it's never as simple as just going down and keeping up with everyone. Even though they didn't seem that far ahead, and Laura didn't seem to linger around for that long, there's now several areas between us and them and many enemies in our way. But you can completely stealth this area. Because as you might have noticed as this game has gone on, we started out in the morning and now we're approaching night. It's not that time actually passes on its own, it's plot dependent. As you go through the story, the day will eventually turn to night. This supposedly all happens in like 2 days. Because to be fair, the game starts in night and you rest at the first camp you get to and then you wake up the next morning. But then after that it's one very long day. Which is fine, but if you leave your collection hunting until last minute, you're gonna have more trouble than it's worth. Like, not that much more trouble, but a little bit more trouble, because it'll be night time. And you're going back through old areas that were originally there during the day, or during the evening, now in the middle of the night, where it's just that little bit harder to see. But now you're approaching the darker times, it makes your the survival instinct, or just the instinct mode, or whatever they want to call it, more viable, because it will highlight things you'll miss more often, like that red cap challenge that I just went straight over. Be careful crossing that bridge though. On my blind playthrough, like, you know, all those years ago, I remember that bridge specifically because I got spotted over it several times trying to get through this area. Because I was under the mindset when I first went through this that stealth would be more important than it actually is. So I played it like very, very stealthily. But nowadays I know that their AI is not brilliant. And although it gets better, like, trust me, if I ever get around to Shadow the Tomb Raider, you'll see what I mean. The AI in that is very painfully smart, which makes the stealth more interesting, if more brutal at times. But in this one especially, and a little bit of Rise, the stealth is kind of minimalistic. Like, you can kind of get through it without much trouble, especially because you can go under the... You can trip them up, you can trip the AI up by just being away from them. They could be looking dead at you, but they won't be able to spot you if you're far enough away. It's like the old school MGS1 vision cone, where as long as you're not within the cone, you're fine. You can be just on the edge of it and you'll slip by.
Storm Guard warriors.
It's just you can't see the cone, so you have to work it out as you go.
Of a great change. The enemy fleet that sails our shores will be the...
I wonder who the voice actor for these, like, general entries are. Because the entries from the supposed Japanese general, the accent sounds fake, which I know is kind of commonplace. They probably just got an American actor that put one on, but I'm still curious who the actor was. Because sometimes you get the odd one where it's like, wow, it doesn't sound genuine at all, and then it actually ends up being genuine. And you're like, oh, whoops. But this one sounds ungenuine, like, well, I guess I could have a look. If I remember when we eventually finish this game, I'll just glance at the credits. But right now, it just, every time I hear it, I'm just like, okay, you just put on the accent. You're not really going any further with this. Then I have made the mistake before, even in our Let's Plays, of assuming someone was had an accent was genuine and it not, or assuming that an accent was fake and it being genuine. It still happens to this day. Like, I was watching the new season of Doctor Who, and in the first episode, they quote-unquote go to Australia for a bit of it, even though it just looks like they're in some green screens, but I guess budget will be damned. And there's two, like, security officials there with them, and they've got, like, the thickest, like, most OTT thickest Australian accents ever, that both my mother and I just looked at each other and went, yeah, there's no way that's real. just to find out that they were actually Aussies. I mean, it's like, oh. Which was a bit, 'cause it was like, it was such a strong version of the Australian accent. It was the version that you hear by people who aren't Australian. It's the fake one. It's the same like when you watch any American show and they have a quote-unquote British character, and you can tell it's just an American putting on a British accent. You've heard how I talk. I don't talk the Queen's English. I'm not overly polite, an OTT or anything like that. To be fair, I'm pretty much what would be defined as accentless. I just say my words. Like, there isn't a tone, there isn't a twist on my tongue. I just talk. I mean, there is a little bit, like I know I say was different to a lot of people, but I'm getting off topic at this point. I'm losing track very fast. The point is that the accent sounds fake, but there's a good chance it probably could end up being real, because that's just my luck with how fake sounding accents can be sometimes. And you have to forgive me if I stop talking more often than I usually do in my videos. I'm currently undergoing a very bizarre, like, sensitive tooth thing that I want to get checked out. It's not that it's aching, it's just one of my front teeth seems to get extremely cold at seemingly random intervals, and that happens to be my gums happen to be very sensitive to that. And it keeps it just coming in at random, usually when I'm talking. And so I'm kind of trying to get around it and continue going, because I don't know what it is. I doubt it's anything bad. I'm probably just not drinking enough. It's not getting enough saliva or something like that. Not in my luck. But until I can get it checked out for whatever reason, I'm just going to have to be a bit more cautious as I go. But then saying that, I am going to be 21 in a few months, and I've yet to suffer any trauma of wisdom teeth. So I think this is only the beginning. Assuming I get it. Some people get lucky. No one in my family has, so I doubt I'll get through it, but we'll see. Oh, right. As I dropped, I did see the climbable wall above there. Like, there's a wall that goes around to that ledge there, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. We fell down it once, so I'm just going to carry on and I'll come back for it or something. I'm pretty sure there's a tomb in this area as well, but I can't see it, and I'm not about to go hunt it down. I'll just clean it up later on if I can't find it. Sorry for the lack of patience. You can see as I play, like I don't apologise, because it's just how I am. I mentioned it before, but I don't like Lara's movement speed in this game. It's way too slow, and especially because it's a bit of a backstep. When you keep in mind this is Crystal Dynamics that made it. Yes, it's a different lead publisher, but Crystal Dynamics made Underworld. Underworld had a sprint. Yes, it was a button, not a stick. I think you had to hold down like left bumper, I think it was, and you sprinted. But it was still, there was a sprint option. Lara doesn't have a sprint option, and she really doesn't get it back in this game ever. In fact, I don't even remember if it's in Rise. It might be, but ow, fuck, I didn't realise there was dogs down here. There we go. Look, I can't remember. It's been a while since I played Rise, right? I'll play it again soon. I kind of want to go through the rest of the Legend Trilogy again at some point, more in my own time. Just to try and take them on their own merit, because Shadow was the only one I really enjoyed. Rise I thought was a step in the right direction, but Shadow I was like, no, this is a really solid game. And then I say that, all three of them are good games. It's just, this one wasn't what I was looking for, which is why I'm a little bit more with some of it. And although the actual core theming and the core idea and the preferences I won't compare with the Legend Trilogy, for example, some of the simple gameplay choices I will. Because they're both still adventure games. It's just they do very different things with how they handle the genre. Because one's more survival focused and the other's just pure adventure. This being the former, the rest being the latter. And so things like not having a sprint I'll critique, because the Legend Trilogy, it took them into Underworld, but they did challenge it and give you a sprint button, which is weird actually. Now that I think about it, this is a running trend that has happened with Lara Croft. Because I don't remember sprint being in Tomb Raider Chronicles, but then I haven't played it in forever, so you have to let me off for this one. But every era of Lara Croft doesn't have a sprint one until like near the end. Also, you want free experience? But But it's like, Angel of Darkness was the only one of the original eras to have a sprint button. Underworld was the only one of the Legend Trilogy to have a sprint button. And I don't remember it being in Rise, so that means Shadow might have been the only one to have a sprint button in this one as well. Which means it's always the last one of an era to get the sprint ability. Why is that a tradition that has happened? Assuming I'm not mistaken, and Rise does have a sprint button, which it might very well do, I just really don't remember it having one. Oh right, yeah, I'm overthinking this. You got to use this because it will yank it round. Yep, I get it. This music is awfully atmospheric for a situation that doesn't really need it. No, because you yank this poor thing, it'll swing it round, and you can just jump for fucking. To be fair, I was playing Underworld the other day, and a similar thing happened in that, so I'm not going to critique it too bad. I think the system that they use to have Lara Mansell and interact with things is always going to be a little bit on the finicky side. It just gets smoother as the games go on. I just noticed it more in this game more than most of the Legend Trilogy. Not that it still happens in the Legend Trilogy. Like, I was playing Anniversary like a few weeks ago. Cause Anniversary is my favourite Tomb Raider, so of course I'm going to go back to it when I'm playing a different Tomb Raider game. And when I was playing that one, I noticed it in that one as well. There was a point in Egypt when I was trying to jump for a ledge, and I know that's the ledge you got to jump through because I've beat Anniversary like a million times. And Lara just didn't grab it; she missed it and like bumped her head on the wall and just fell to her death. And I was like, sweet. Like, it was definitely the jump to make. Maybe I just jumped slightly too early, but it just didn't register it. It felt like. But I do miss those sort of games. I need a new adventure. I need a new classic Tomb Raider, or just a classic adventure style game where it's just a linear adventure with lots of little secrets hidden around and clever puzzles and main rooms, as I used to call them. Well, Anniversary was the king of main rooms. Well, the original Tomb Raider per se. And they drifted a little bit further away from it as the series went on. But they still had main rooms be a thing all the way into even Angel of Darkness. And what I mean by it is that going into a big central room that, say, has 4 MacGuffin locks, like 4 keys or 4 relics or 4 stones that need to be pressed, etc. They'll open a big door, but the path branches off into 4 different corridors, one that would have each key, that are their own puzzle and challenge that take you a while to work out and do. And dealing with the main rooms is something that, I don't know, like the fact that they were in literally every single Tomb Raider up until the reboot trilogy, because I think even Legend had it to an extent. Yeah, it wasn't as big because Legend was more linear as a whole, like in more of an action sense, like it wanted to push the action more, but it still had a puzzle room, it still had a lot of puzzles, and even had a main room where you had to go open other doors to open a main one. Underworld especially, even though Underworld it was a bit more sparing and controlled how they handled it, because Underworld was trying to be a bit more cinematic at the time for 2008. Or 2009, whenever it came out. I can't really remember off the top of my head. I just remember it actually did come out on PS2 as well, which I thought was wild at the time. Because it was like 2008 or 2009. It was one of the last games to be released in the PS2's lifespan. Because I don't count any of some of the stuff that we get nowadays, when it's like, no, the console has been long since dead, you're just releasing a game for the sake of throwing it on there. Like when I think it was like FIFA 15 or FIFA 16 was put on the PS2 as well, and I was like, what are you trying to gain from this? Especially because it wasn't even like anywhere near as polished as the football games that were on PS2 at the time. I say this as someone who really doesn't enjoy any of them, so doesn't bother, but it was still evident. Or like how I think the most recent Just Dance was on the Nintendo Wii, and it's like that machine's like a decade old. What are you doing? The Wii U and the Switch have been out since then.
Laura, are you there?
Also, when we're on our way down from the gondola that I assume everyone else took, we're going through a giant load screen right now, which is why everything is so foggy around us, you can barely see anything. But we are going to have another encounter, because of course it's never that easy to get to the shipwreck. Well, the shipwrecked beach is the area, is what the name of the area is that we're heading towards.
I need you to keep this to yourself for now. I'm going to help Grace fix that boat, but then I'm taking it inland. Laura,
Dun dun dun.
I don't know about this. Just trust me. It's the only way. Alright. You be careful.
Did you hear that? That sounded like a, I don't know if that was like a wind sound effect or a water sound effect or what, but there was a proper sound explosion that built up in the background there where sounds overlaid and it just didn't sound right. But I just want to... So going back on my point, before this all kicks off, because you can tell it's gonna, just look at all this.
Damn it, no!
I just missed that style of game. And it was playing the, well, not playing, watching. I wish I could play it, but my PC, I don't have one. My laptop died a long while ago, and so I haven't really got the money together to replace it. But if I did, I would absolutely play the Dagger of Sha'an, or the Dagger of Xi'an, that was a fan-made remake of the second game, built in the style of the anniversary titles. Because oh my goodness, it looked amazing, and it looked exactly what I've been missing for over a decade now. Because let's be honest, when Lara Croft stopped doing traditional linear adventure games with that kind of puzzle element, nothing took its place. There were other linear adventure games and there were other puzzle games, but none that ever brought them together in that sense, in that style. Like, if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you don't, I'm trying. But if you've played any of the classic Tomb Raiders, you know exactly what I mean with it. But there isn't any game that's like that. There's games that are similar-ish, but none that are like it. None that truly harken in that true sense of like joy you've got by finding your way through, by solving these environmental puzzles or solving these literal sit down and work on it puzzles. And people can say, oh yeah, but isn't Uncharted like that? No. The Uncharted plays more like, well, I say it's more like the reboot, but it's more the other way around, because Uncharted came first. The reboot trilogy plays more like Uncharted, where it's a lot less focused on the puzzles, a lot looser, and when it does throw puzzles at you, they're a lot simpler. Especially in Uncharted's case, like some of those puzzles are just... Like, that was one of the things that disappointed me with Uncharted 4, along with the way too overly stiff and realistic gameplay. Because, you know, Neil Druckmann, great story director, but gameplay director, what the fuck. Like, the puzzles in Uncharted 4, like, you literally took one glance at them and went, I know what you're after to do here. And it was like, those kind of puzzles aren't satisfying to me. The ones where I take a glance at and can be a little overwhelmed, or be like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Or kind of get stuck, or just like I said, even just getting overwhelmed, like I said before. But you're just stuck on it, and you have to actually really consider it and really try and take it in before you can find your way through. Not once in the entire saga of Uncharted have they ever done that. Their puzzles are very much an afterthought of how they handle them, which is a shame, because I love the Uncharted series and what it is, but it just didn't scratch that itch that I wanted when I stepped away from Tomb Raider, because I said I wasn't happy with the reboot games. They're fine games in what they do, and they're fun games in what they do. They're just not what I'm looking for. But it's why I have so much more time for Shadow compared to the others, because Shadow makes much more of a valiant effort to harken back to the older games than the first two do. Shadow, I think in general, is a great game. Yeah, it's a little too overly bogged down with some of its story beats that are a bit weirdly thrown together. Like Trinity, when we get into Trinity lore, because they do get subtly teased if you get all the collectibles in this game. If you find half the GPSs, you get a tease that someone is here working for Trinity. And if you get all the GPSs, you get a second tease that Trinity's mission failed here. But when we get more into Trinity with Rise and Shadow, the way they finally dealt away with Trinity and dealt with them as a villain was very poorly handled, I felt. Like, it was enough, but it still felt kind of like this big evil organization that you built up for ages was actually only run by like 3 people, and one of them died in Rise anyway. But that's what I kind of mean. They just felt really odd and weird. And Lara's obsession with dealing with Trinity, although not completely unrealistic when you consider what she's been through, especially as we go through it, still came off a bit weird at times. And like, I think it was Jonah in the third game that really like the challenger on it and be like, you're getting a bit obsessed here, especially because it started endangering other people because of her determination to find and stop Trinity.
Something tells me the others found an easier way.
And so although she's justified to an extent, she isn't all the way justified. But I won't spoil the future games if you've never played them and you're just watching along. Just understand that just understand that if we do cover the sequels to the reboot trilogy, you're gonna hear Trinity a hell of a lot. More so in Shadow. It's because I was thinking of the word Shadow. I'm slightly dyslexic, so sometimes it catches me. I was thinking of the word Shadow as I went to say so it caught me off. But we're finally in our third and final hub area of the game, the shipwrecked beach. And so just like other hub areas, there's a hell of a lot more collectibles here than before. Oh, we got another rifle part, cheers. And we'll be returning to it several times before we leave. However, once you leave this area, the final time you visit this area and go to leave, you're going to endgame. And what I mean by this is that it won't be the point of no return, but the game will heavily recommend that you get all your collectathon and everything that you want done before you leave this area for the last time. And I will highlight when it is when we get there. We're not there yet. We've got to leave this area and return to it like 2, arguably 3 more times yet. I say arguable because the very first time we leave it, we don't really leave it, we just go right to the very edge of it. We can't open this yet until we've left and come back a second time, or first if you don't want to count just going to the edge of it and coming back. And there's a trophy here if you killed this crab, because apparently they named these crabs in development just, I guess, for the sake of keeping on top of development. It was easier to remember. And if you kill that crab, you get a trophy or achievement for it, because that was one of the crabs that was named. There's a whole bunch of crabs on the beach, and it's like 3 or 4 of them are named. And there's 2 collectibles on the beach as well. There's 2 more crabs here, or 3 more. There's those 2 are overlaying each other. There's 2 like challenge collectibles here outside of the usual documents, relics, GPS, and such. There's one for blowing up mines. There's sea mines. They're not like little mines, like the little circular ones you see in films. I'm talking like the giant spike balls you saw in Finding Nemo. The giant sea mines. Like, there's a whole chuckload of them around that you can shoot at to destroy, but some of them are way out in the water, so I'll just follow a guide for that when I go for them. And then the cairns that you saw us destroy one as we approached. But we got a cutscene, so I'm going to shut up and let this play.
I'm here. Laura!
Alex will be sorry he missed out on this.
Yeah. Where is Alex?
Heading over to the Endurance to grab some tools for Reyes.
Jonah, give the hoist a try.
This has got to be our best chance, right?
We've got to try.
I'm glad you decided to join us, Lara.
What can I do to help?
Help Jonah.
Shit. We'd be able to lift him more smoothly with some kind of block and tackle.
You're right. I should be able to fashion one from some pulleys.
There might be some on that rigging we can use. I'll check it out.
Be careful, Lara.
And so that we have our first task that will involve us leaving the beach itself. Not the zone, like the entire zone you look at on the map, it's all called the Shipwreck Beach. But if you drift off to our immediate right, we'll be leaving to go towards the block and tackle, like going down that way. But we won't do that right now. We got some collectibles and basic upgrading we'll do, and then we'll do it next part. But going up there, it's still a part of the zone, if you check on the map, Shipwreck Beach, but it's right on the edge and you're actually going onto the shipwreck. If you're wondering what the ship is, which in case you didn't work it out, it is the Endurance. The reason why it's called the Shipwrecked Beach is because we're the ship that wrecked. This is where we were, right at the very, very start of the game, for that opening cutscene, you know, before Lara was knocked out and dragged into that cave.
Go insane with rage.
You know, you saw it for like literally a few seconds where she shouted out saying, "Guys, I'm over here," and then she just got taken.
I remember feeling
And then we had to try and get out of that cave before we could even get a bow. Like, we just had to scramble our way out and do a lot of quick time events.
And now, as I look at the reefs surrounding this beach,
Also, this journal entry confirms what Lara had already kind of mentioned, is that Lara is aware that Jonah knows that this island is cursed, and Lara is right about it.
on the rocks. Lara is right. This island
And the
is
most
cursed.
depressing thing is probably the last line. Jonah has already kind of confided within himself, is that if he's the last one left, he will drown himself. He will take his own life and be with his brother, which is a very depressing thing. But Jonah is a character, and part of the reason why I enjoy him so much, and I'm glad that he's the one that sticks around for the whole trilogy, is that he's very spiritual, but not in like a, I don't really know how to put it. Like, he's spiritual, but not in an over-the-top way. He's spiritual in a way that always just feels right. Like, I think Jonah is one of the best written characters in the reboot, and so I'm really glad that he is actually a part of the whole trilogy. He sticks with Lara throughout the whole thing, whilst no one else does. No one else is up for that kind of life, but Jonah I guess either Jonah is, or he's just like, look, someone's got to keep an eye on this girl. But we've unlocked the specialist skills here, so we can get the last skills, like this one that I'll definitely be getting next, because it highlights tomb entrances and map locations on your map. And map locations, if you find a map, will tell you where every collectible outside of challenge collectibles are in your zone, which are amazing, and being able to label tombs is its own reward. But either way, next time on Tomb Raider 2013, we're going to go for that block and tackle to help us lift that crane. But until then, you guys take care now.